Hello everyone, my name is Janae Oliver and today I'll be presenting Empowering Leadership and Effective Collaboration in Geographically Dispersed Teams, along with my colleagues Abdul Al-Rawili, Manny Archie, and Lena Lazendorf. As an example of geographically dispersed teams, I'd like to introduce you to my colleagues and the geographic areas we work from. We have Lena on the west side, Manny in South Bay, Abdul in Riverside, and there I am in South Los Angeles. Our discussion includes a summary of the article by Hill and Barton, but we've also embedded a few possible applications for the theoretical model and study. The purpose of this study is to show how globalization, outsourcing needs, as well as strategic partnering of organizations presents new challenges. In order to stay competitive, organizations need to adapt. They should have interest in building geographically dispersed teams in order to succeed on the global market. For team leaders, this means that new skills and strategies are needed in order to lead these teams successfully. This study examines how the correlation of empowering leadership and outcomes is connected. The theoretical framework of Hill and Barton's research combines the distributed leadership theory developed in 2002 and empowering leadership theory developed in 2000. In the distributed leadership theory, virtual team leaders have the following role. They create self-managing teams with ease of collaboration, create explicit structures that facilitate a team's adaptability to dynamic environments, determine the best computer-mediated communications, build unique team culture, facilitating mutual respect and trust between team members. They give clear direction along critical issues, and lastly, develop contingency plans and define roles of team members. Empowering leadership has three components. First, it distributes power among team members. Second, there's more autonomy. And finally, more control over their work environment. To illustrate the theory, Hill and Barton created a two-tier theoretical model which shows the combination of these two theories. At the first level, you have empowering team leadership, which improves situational judgment of team members, team member collaboration, or how an individual contributes to the whole, and individual team member performance. At a second level, you have geographic dispersion, which intersects between empowering team leadership and team collaboration, which leads to improvement in overall team performance. There are four hypotheses investigated in this study. The first is that empowering leadership moderates a positive relationship between virtual teamwork situational judgment, or VTSJ, and team member virtual collaboration, such that this relationship is stronger as empowering leadership is high. So let's take a look at an example. Imagine we're forming a presidential campaign team to reach various constituencies across the United States. There may be several campaign managers deployed in critical states where we need to communicate the candidate's platform, increase voter turnout, and persuade undecided voters. The leaders will need to be empowered in order to make decisions, or VTSJ, in response to a changing political climate, emerging issues, and address any external threats to the candidate's reputation. The more empowered these campaign managers are, the more VTSJ and collaboration there will be. Using the same example of the campaign, the second hypothesis takes empowering leadership a step further to say it will also moderate a positive indirect effect of these team members, VTSJ, on team member performance through virtual collaboration, which is stronger at higher levels of empowering leadership. Team geographic dispersion, for hypothesis number 3, moderates the positive relationship between empowering team leadership and a team's virtual collaboration, such that this relationship is stronger as team geographic dispersion is high. Now let's take a look at an example through global philanthropy. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They're more geographically dispersed with offices all around the globe. They partner with a number of NGOs to address global health issues, development, growth and opportunity, education, and policy and advocacy. Since these teams are widely geographically dispersed, you can imagine that if staff members in these areas are empowered, these individuals likely would depend on each other to share best practices and models that help them fulfill their overall mission, which is to help all people lead healthy, productive lives. These same teams, based on hypothesis number 4, would also have greater team member performance. Why, you ask? Well, that's a great question. Hill and Barton hypothesized that team member geographic dispersion moderates a positive indirect effect of empowering leadership on team member performance, and all of this is accomplished through team virtual collaboration. Furthermore, this indirect relationship is stronger as teams are more geographically dispersed. Now, let's look at the methodology. The hypotheses were tested using data that was collected through online surveys. The average team size was 9.27 and teams were geographically dispersed. Likert scales were used with a range from 1 to 7, where 1 meant does not describe the team leader at all, and 7 meant describes team leader extremely well. For the test, the teams had to tackle complex tasks that require interdependent work. The team members completed 2 surveys. The first, a focal team member survey, which measured teamwork situational judgment. 2 weeks later, they took an empowering leadership survey to measure how much the team leader practiced empowering leadership. The response rate overall was 78%. Here are the results. There was in fact a positive and significant relationship between VTSJ and team member virtual collaboration, which manifested when empowering leadership was high. For hypothesis 2, there was significant correlation between team member performance on VTSJ and team member virtual collaboration. As predicted, the relationship between empowering leadership and team virtual collaboration was more positive at high levels of team geographic dispersion. The relationship at low levels, however, of team geographic dispersion was not significant. So here's another illustration of the theoretical implications. As you can see, highly geographic dispersed teams have a greater need for empowering leadership. This improves individual member performance, which also improves collaboration between virtual team members. Ultimately, this leads to improving virtual team performance overall. Managerial implications. Since empowering leadership adds immense value to teams who are in geographically dispersed situations, when organizations rely on globalization and outsourcing, the study suggests to consider the up-and-coming team members. One approach would be to consider VTSJ in combination with dispersed team members through selection processes. A situational judgment test would make such a selection process possible. Organizations can also provide training to improve team member knowledge and set norms of expected behavior in advance. Here are a few limitations and alternatives. First, this is a cross-sectional study, which means you're only observing a population at a specific point in time. You can't demonstrate a causal relationship, and you can't look at changes over time. There could also be bias in methodology because due to convenience sample and because participants are self-reporting. For greater significance, you would need a larger sample size. And finally, studying a single organization limits the variability and decreases external validity. Opportunities for future research include understanding the types of experiences that might help develop a team member's VTSJ and consider other divisive factors such as function and cultural diversity that may negatively impact collaboration. We also want to know, does this process influence dynamics within the team? In conclusion, as you can see, empowering leadership produces outcomes at 2 levels, individual level and the team level. We want to thank you for your time in listening to our presentation, and we hope that you gained additional knowledge to inform how you might also empower leaders within your own organization if geographically dispersed and utilize virtual platforms to execute on projects or process-oriented activities.